Okay, let's get started. Ventuz just opening up. Okay, so we want to start with a new scene, and what we're going to do is create a little Mars presentation scene, like just a simple one for beginners. So you can click a button and then animate into animate transition to the surface of the planet. We'll do it really simple, and then you can build upon what you built later. Anyway, let's get started. So you need a few assets. So I've got my assets from Sketchfab. I'll here some of the links. So like and the textures from like the NASA website of Mars. I think I got a rover and like the planet and stuff like this. I'll post these in the description below, so if you want to download those and follow along, or you could use your own models for free. Just download them as GLTF so we can drag and drop them into our project. Okay, so what we're going to do is build a nice little scene. So we're gonna work with layers, and so here's my models in the folders already ready. So let's build our little scene. So let's create a background. Now this background, we can probably put some stars or something. Let's Google some blue space background or something, you know, something cool. Up to really what you want to go for. You can go for a darker one or whiter one. Maybe we go for this. Save images, or oh, some reason it's taking me there, but save images. I'll save it into here, into my Mars folder. You can close that window down. So what you can do as well, is a cool thing in ventuz, is I'll just rename that texture. I'll set space or something. So you can drag and drop your images straight into the scene. So we go into the scene here. If I go and drag and drop my space texture in, it will automatically assign it to a material, you know. So it kind of saves you drop, like from going like color, then going add texture base with alpha, then loading it, or base or whatever, you know. It's just that saves you that extra step. It kind of speeds up your workflow. It's quite cool. So we're gonna need to put it on like a rectangle. Of course, you could yourself. You could have it as a 2D layer, the background. If you're not adding any more elements to that background and it's just a flat, you could just say 2D layer and then have a 2D image as a background as well, or gradient, or whatever you want. But we're going to keep it as a 3D layer, so if we wanted to add some moving elements later, or you could have another layer. But, hey, up to you. So many ways you can do it. I'm just going to fill this space up like this. Now I'm going to set the lighting model to no light. There we go. And on the material where the base color is, what I'll do is, let me just let this music volume down a tiny bit. There we go. This actually it's too loud, but there we go. I'm just going to dim it down a tiny bit. Maybe put a hint of blue in there, more blue. There we go. Doesn't need to be, you know, massive. If you want, you can go add in some post effects on that, like glare, and you know. Probably doesn't help if I did that. Yeah. But yeah, you could like, so the highlights, the kind of boosted a bit more. Perhaps we just but yeah, you can play around with that. Anyway, that's just the background for now. We'll leave it like this for now. Let's focus on building like the the scene, like, and making it work. So let's create another 3D layer, and this will be our, you know, our Mars, like Mars content. So we'll just call it Mars. So this layer I'll just call Mars. And what we want to do is go into our folders and grab our Mars planet. So I'm just gonna delete all these extra nodes like that came in with it. Now on the material on this, if you scale it up, like some of them will come with specular maps or like you can see here, and then they'll have all these presets. Some kind of work and some don't, so it depends on how you bring it in. What I'm gonna do is just delete these and create a new one again. Texture, go choose base, and let's go to the folder and load that texture back in. The same one. I'll just redo it because it was changing the color and stuff. And then here on the Fong, you might want to reset these values. It varies from model to model, and when you import them in, they all have different material properties that are different depending on what program they exported it out of, you know. Anyway, so we can, if you want, you can tweak this, so you can tweak the sharpness and all sorts. So right now there's no normal map for this texture, so we can create one from our actual texture by going to normal map generator. And what you can do is, if you load in that same texture, it will generate a normal map from it, so you can see. So if I change that amount size, you can see how cool that is. Ventuz creates normal maps for you, which is cool. That's a really cool tool, using the normal map generator. Should try it, really cool. So what do we want to do? We want to make this interactive, and maybe we want to make this look a bit more nicer. So let's say the specular, let's add some color into that specular, just like give it a little bit of an orangey tone. Okay, and if you want, you could add a rim light, maybe. So if you want to add a rim light, you can do that. You can use the color picker. Perhaps you want to get this, pick up this kind of blue from the background texture, which is kind of cool. So you can, adjust the gain. You can play around with that. Say full range or whatever, play around. Invert it. I kind of like that. That's looking nice. Okay, so now we have this planet. So name it. You can name it if you want. Mars. So this is our Mars layer. Let's make it so you can spin this around. So if you want to spin something around, you need to add an interaction. Touch rotation. I apologize if I'm going a bit too fast. I'll try not to, but I don't want it to be too long either, the video. Enough of me rambling on. So I'm going to set the input to Y, so it rotates on the Y axis. On the mode, I'll set it to off axis. There we go. Responds a little bit better. I'm going to change this to unsigned, so now it just goes from 0 to 360 in the output. It's just, in case if you wanted to link that value to something else, 0 to 360, then it's, rather than it being minus 8,000, how many times it spins, it's just keep on going up in that direction, or keep on going down in that same direction. This one just loops 0 to 60, 360, 0 to 360. So anyway, enough of that. Now I want to maybe tilt this, so I want it to roll on diagonally. So I could just put this after the axis and then tilt this. So now it lets me do it. So let's say 45. There we go. I want it, off axis. But I want this maybe. I'm just gonna rotate it a bit more. I'll keep it on 45. Okay. Reset those. I shall leave it like that. Side. I'm being picky, but I just wanted it to, so you can have, like, say you wanted to like a rectangle or something to go through, so you can add an axis just above, put it behind the object, and then add the rectangle. Okay, scale this up. We change the Y, so we could say, oh, this is maybe the gravitation, the pole or whatever, you know, whatever you want. I don't know, just add some extra graphic details in there. We could add some rings as well in here, maybe. Let's just make it a bit more interesting. So maybe we add a axis and a circle. These are just graphics, isn't it? So you know, you can go in and design whatever you want. Let's put a hole in this. So we've got a nice ring. Okay, so you know, you can keep on building this up. If you want, you can go a bit crazy. Maybe put in the spreader. I'm gonna say continue output, no. So we'll just have that one, and then increase that count maybe, and then boom, and rotate this, and then you got some cool, you know, orbit lines. If you want to go a bit more crazy or experimental, you can just like change the angle on that circle, and then you could animate this start angle by using a mover. So if you go to your animation tab, you'll find the mover, drop into your content window, get a circle, angle start, drop on the mover. On the mover now, you want to set your settings, so say 0 to 360. Bam. And now you're going to see it swinging back and forth, so you want to uncheck swing on that mover. Now you got a nice little loop. Increase the duration, then you can slow it down. You want it even more slower, do like 30 seconds. You don't want it to be too distracting, so say 45 seconds. You know, you play around with it, that's really up to you. Then you got options like factor, so you can have it faded or whatever you want to do. So I'm going to add a solid color to this circle, and then knock down the opacity on that. I also apply the same alpha, the same material to that line. There we go. It's just a design thing. It's nothing else. Really, the main thing is we can interact with it, and we've got a nice little animation. Anyway, so let's add some text onto this. Get an axis. So we'll put a title on our presentation. Let's go to our text tab. We're going to get our text 2D, block text. Right now you can see it's angled and it's parented to this axis, so I want to just unparent it. There we go. Bring this forward in Z space, so it's not sitting inside our sphere, so bring it forward. Now on your text properties, you want to change some of these settings. So I'm going to change to headline, and then maybe call this like Mars. So we know that's Mars. And now we're going to change our line alignment to center and the text alignment to center. Scale this up, make it nice and big. If you have a more fancy font, you could go for that, and by loading it by going edit, and then you could scan your system fonts or import into your project folder. So if you go into your projects, for example, and then you have a font you can bring in, go for it. Let's try this one, condensed. There we go. And you can play around with that. So what I'm going to do is call this title. You can name all your objects, so it's easier for you to understand what it is. You know, because it's just a line, doesn't it? It's just a line. Yeah, and that's Mercury. It's called Mercury. Apparently, it's Mercury. I thought it was Mars, but I'll just call it Mars. I'll change it to Mars. I probably downloaded the wrong planet, but hey, we can always change it. So if I want to change that tint of color as well, a bit more reddish, orangey color, you can also change the base color. Just give it a bit more of a tint. There you go. Anyway, so we've got a title. Let's add a little subtitle. So duplicate the title by holding Control and dragging down, and then we can change the text by editing that. We can put in 2.0. is it? Now, or whatever you want, you know. And I'd say use like just 2 different fonts. We didn't need like 3 different ones. So we went for that condense, and I'll just go for like normal, the same font. But there we go. Yeah, you can give each font a color, or you can parent them up to 1. So if you want to just now color them both together, you can do that. It's kind of cool. Just knock that opacity down a tiny bit. Okay, it's not bright white. It's not fully solid, you know. It just looks a bit wrong. The cool thing with font is you can change the character spacing. So if you want it spread out, or you know, be more condensed or squish it, you have that option as well, which is nice, really nice feature there. Now I think I might go for even smaller font. So edit, and go for the light. Bring this down smaller, and I'll just change my character spacing. But yeah, that's just you know, up to you. Graphics, aesthetics, it's just nothing fancy. Cool. So once you're happy with that, so you say this is going to be like our screen. We're going to have a button that we click, and once we zoom in, we'll zoom in, and you'll be able to look around the surface maybe. Okay, so how are we going to do that? Let's put this in the under 1 axis, and let's call this planet. Okay, and we'll make another axis. We'll call this surface. Okay, so for now I'm gonna block this planet, just block it for now. So we'll focus on the surface. So Control B is the shortcut, or you see this little arrow, you can just block it, or you can go here in the properties and press block, and it'll block it from the tree. So it's just like hiding that object. I recommend saving your work as you go along. So you go say scene, save as, or save as you go along, so you don't lose what you've created. Anyway, so let's block this. So Control B, and let's build the surface. So now the surface, we're going to need an axis, and we're going to need a sphere. I'm going to scale this sphere up, so we're inside it. Now we're looking inside the sphere. Now in those links down below, I have the NASA link, which is this texture. I'll drag it in. Is imagery from it's a panoramic from the Mars rover. So right now you won't be able to see it because we're inside the sphere. So you need to change a few properties on your material. So you need to change it first to no light, and you need to go to draw mode, and under the inherit you want to change it to solid. Where it says culling, you want to say none. Now we're inside it. So if we spin, it kind of looks weird, and you know, you might want to do some adjustments and stuff and tweaks. So what we could do is click on the material of the texture, go to the actual texture, go to UV map, 2D UV mapping. I'll just choose UV 0 and change that Y position. So bring it down, because right now we're way too high up. So something like this. Now if you rotate the Y axis, you can look around, and you can look at the landscape at least, you know. Don't worry too much about this bottom, because what we do, we have another model that we're going to import, which will be our landscape. They'll be linked. This is called mud, and I'll just drop this into the scene. Now I'm going to delete these axes. So I'm going to delete this, delete this, I'm going to delete this as well. So these root nodes and this, I just control clicking. I'll also delete this. Okay, so there's no axis, and I'll create a new one for it. There we go. Scale this up. Nice plane. And then bring it down. And you can just scale it up so it's, you know, sits in the scene. So it's going to look pretty dark because there's no lighting on this actual material. It might come in with like specular maps and normal maps, you know, all of this. But if you want, you can go and create your own, or you could find the better texture. I don't like this very much, so I'm just going to delete that specular, this comp, this normal. I'll delete them all and just load that texture. That's the base texture, and I'll create a normal map from that one. So this imported one here, and I'll do a normal map generator. Now you say use this image. It has one already, but I kind of like the one ventuz creates. You'll notice here, default again, these materials, if you reset them, then it'll start to look better, you know. It depends on what software they've created this in. So if we rotate the Y now, the surface, it looks very dark, so you can do is change the emission if you wanted to bump that brightness up a tiny bit. You can play around with the sharpness, but yeah, we can add a light into this scene. So directional light, just drop it in front right now. Then we can position this. Yeah. And play around. We turn shadows on. Just turn the shadow map on. Right now the shadow map's affecting the sphere. You don't want the sphere to be affected. Just click on or any object. Just click on the object with that has a material. Under draw, next shadow options, where it says inherit, change it to shadow options, and you could say cast or receive, and you can turn those off. So if you don't want it to receive a shadow or cast a shadow, you can change that, which is nice. Nice feature. Okay, and then you can, maybe change that color a bit or tweak it, scale this, perhaps a little bit up a tiny bit. I don't know. You need to find that nice spot that you're kind of happy with. I'm happy with that for now. We might change it again later. We'll see. Like right now, I don't like seeing that, but it doesn't bother me too much. This is just a basic. We're not too focused on the overall look of the. It's just for learning purposes. Anyway, so let's get our rover in. So we have a surface. We have a nice ground plane. We've got this nice panoramic that we're using as an image, so we can spin it around. Okay, the same way we added the touch rotation, we're going to add the touch rotation to this after we've finished adding our rover in. So let's add our rover in. So what you can do is go to your folder, go to Rover, drop it into the same group. Now we want it to be affected by light, so I'm going to put it under there. Now there might be some issues with scaling depending on the model. As you can see, this one's not visible on screen because it's so big. We're actually past its scale, so I have to go 0.001, and there you go. You can see it right there. So if I scale this up, it's huge. It was huge. So now I'm in, it's minus 0. So depending on the application, it's, each person exports it differently. It creates different scale size. So you just need to adjust. You just gotta get used to adjusting. As you can see, we've got the nice shadow, so you can kind of just make it sit on the floor there, and you can adjust the yaw. So you might notice this little band in here. So by changing your bias, just dragging these values, it will help with the light, the shadows, and get rid of that banding, that slope. Changing the slope and the depth There you go. That should fix that. There you go. So once you're happy with your, you know, your scene, this is what we want to spin around. So we click on we're on the planet. We're gonna click on it. So I'm gonna click on it. So we're gonna be on this scene. You can, you know, you can spin. We're gonna have a button, and we're gonna click on it, zoom in, and end up on the surface where you can get some kind of information and see, you know, maybe see the site, and all sorts. So we'll add like maybe a slider to control this lighting, you know, as a bonus or something. I don't know. Anyway, enough said. Let's do it. Let's do it. So let's name some of our objects, because you know, name this Rover, and maybe we want to animate this along the Z. So maybe we just have it driving up and along here. I don't know. It's up to you. You can go in and animate the wheels or the elements. For me, I'll just have it just kind of maybe doing this on a mover. So I'm looking at the values. So right now I'm going from, say, minus 8.8 to 24. If I grab a mover, so shortcut, if I hit spacebar, bring up a shortcut to my toolbox so I can search for what I want. The mover you'll find under the animation tab. So Z, take my Z position. Right now it's only going minus 1 to 1. If I change those values, as you see, then those values, the distance increases and where it travels to. And you can see now you can spin, and then this rover's animated, which is kind of nice. Cool. However, it wouldn't probably be moving at that speed, but we want it moving, but we don't want it too slow. But yeah, again, play around with the timing. Again, you could go in and probably like animate certain things. Let's see what parts we got. So cool thing is, if you click on these little widgets, these little icons up here in render edit, you can click on different parts of the geometry, for example, and find them in the tree. So now the mast, this is the mast. So I found the mast, and then if I want to rotate that, depending on what's grouped, you could animate that. I've kind of broken it, but or you could go up here and find the whole tree there and, you know, animate that. But yeah, you can animate each piece. So let's see, can we find the wheel? Yeah, we found the wheel. This is a wheel here, and not this one. There we go. So if you wanted to animate, let's say, put a mover on this, just break this out. So the little wiggly line, if you notice, I clicked on the little wiggly line. There's a wiggly line on these. You can add a mover, but you can see it's animated. I'll just uncheck that in edit render mode, so you can see it's moving. We slow it down to 30 seconds. Now you can see that wheel looks like it's moving. If I change turn swing on, and you could do that, you know, apply those to all those wheels properly. But yeah, I mean, it might break it, but we'll see which values. Let's just try it. No harm in trying. But yeah, now you can see, now we've got some kind of animation, look like it's animating, but yeah, we're just using a mover to make it look like those treads are moving. I haven't done all the wheels, but you can go and spend time doing that. And you might want to rename the model depending on how much you animate on that. I'll collapse that for them. There you go. So let's make this interactive, more interactive. So let's go to let's go to what I was gonna go to interaction tab. We want the touch rotation. Now I'm gonna place it under here. Now this is a huge mesh. Say you you want to click there or there and there, and you know, you could have a huge volume where you could say click the whole screen. But what we're going to do is we're going to do something different. We're going to have another mesh, like an invisible hitbox. So we're going to use, I mean, you could use a sphere. Sphere is probably the best one to choose. And then you could say, well, within this area, you can only, you know, interact. You can't click here to interact to spin the environment. And then you could create like a HUD if you wanted, or you can kind of make this fill the whole screen and, you know, spin the whole thing. So what we're going to do is change the y-axis. So right now I'm going to go add a alpha on here where it says relatively blocking, block on full transparency. Uncheck that, because when you block it, it'll block this, so you won't be able to click it anymore. You'll see the shadow of you can see the shadow of the sphere. So as I rotate, you can see it's still there, and it's putting this into the shadow. So on the materials, the same alpha is still material. You need to say, go to shadow options and say change cast and receive. So uncheck those. So now it doesn't affect the shadows and the lighting. It's still there. It's still here. So you can, you know, you can see it's still there, but it's just invisible. But there's an invisible hotspot. Now what we want to do is check that. Take the off axis and change to unside. So now what we're going to do is take this value here, the angle of this, and control this surface. So really easy. Take the y axis rotation and drop it to the angle. So now when we drag on the screen, we have control what is the actual touch, you know, the mesh. So right now it's a banner volume. If I change it to mesh, it's the actual mesh now. That's our interactive mesh. So if I put this to 100%, so you can see this sphere. If I bring this in, now I try to drag here, it doesn't work. If I drag this sphere, now I can, you know, that is my interactive, you know, area or touch area, which is kind of nice, so you can control and not worry about anything else. So that's kind of cool. So maybe we want to bring this in and then bring this down to 0. There you go. It's totally up to you. I kind of like that. Maybe we'll put some, just add some additional graphics. So I'm gonna do this. What I should have done is parent this to, no, not parent it. Don't parent it. Leave it like that. Create group. Just call this surface. Like so. Surface. And I'll create group for the planet as well. Group. So you'll find group. If you're looking for the group node, you can hit spacebar and type group, or you'll find it under the world tab, group. For that, planet and surface. Okay. So we've got two things here. And let's add some, just to add a little graphic, axis, circle, and I'll scale that up. And I'll say, okay, I'll bring this forward in Z space, so it kind of cuts it. So it's in front of everything, slightly. I'm gonna put a hole in it. Of course, I could put another whole new layer, but we're gonna do something else. But yeah, if I don't want it to sit on anything else, you know, and it's just a UI overlay, you could do that. But we'll get away with doing this. There we go. So right now, it's kind of looking cool. Just add a color to this, solid color, and then just bring that alpha down. I'll duplicate this again, scale it, and I'll change the angle start. And duplicate this again and just rotate. So something here, you know. So I could, it's just a, you know, you can play around and tweak these graphics, you know. till you're happy with how it looks, and you know, the whole HUD. Actually, we could just have one material for all of these, like so. But yeah, it's nothing special. It's just, you know. Yeah. So yeah, and you could have some text or some numbers or anything fancy on there. Again, if you don't want this to be affected or cast a shadow, remember, change that shadow options, uncheck cast and receive. Just uncheck those and then you won't cast and receive a shadow. So now that should be fine. So we want to animate, we want to transition from this to this surface. How are we going to do it? Simple. We're going to need the axis. I'll say put another axis on here. So this axis has an axis, and then just have another axis here. There we go. So these two fresh new axes. Also going to get an alpha for each one. Yeah. So I'm going to cross, fade between the two. Okay, so we've got these two, and name them. So I can name that like Mars and then surface or space. So we know that, you know, and then space alpha. So when we name, when you keyframe them, you'll know what they're named, you know. Surface alpha, or you know, it just makes your life easier later. But let's shift select them all. Go to animation tab, yeah, keyframe animation. Grab those two alphas, take the alpha value, drop it in your keyframe, your animation. Take the axes and take the Z position and the rotation of the Z. Okay. So right now I'm also gonna block them when they're not active. So I'm gonna take the groups. Okay. And what I'm gonna do is keyframe the block. So we only see one. So if we go to our timeline, animation timeline, if you can't find it, you can go to view and then animation, and you can place your interface animation wherever you want. You can move this, you can, you know, change the interface how you want your layout to be. I kind of like this old legacy style layout, got used to it, but I like the flexibility. You could, you know, you could have this on the second monitor, which is much better. You can be having your viewport on a second monitor and then full timeline, full windows, you know. Really nice way to work, nice workflows. Anyway, let's set keys. Let's set some keys. So let's set a key here and say 1 second. Yeah. Okay, so we know that we don't want to see the surface, right? Let's start. So that's blocked, and I'll just move that keyframe one frame before it turns on. Right. Then it turns on. Okay, so that's blocked, not blocked. Okay, and the same for now. When we get to here, we don't want to see this Mars. We don't want to see the planet. Okay, so again, you can just check that this key. There we go. So now it's switching. It's like you're blocking. The surface is blocked, and then that's unblocked, and then the other one's blocked. See, you see. So we animate the block. Okay, so let's animate this mask section first. So we know it's called surface. Is a surface, and then surface alpha, and then we've got space and space alpha. You can reorganize these and shuffle them around, which is nice. So if you want to like shuffle your keyframes, so you can keep those in groups. Keep it organized. You can also collapse them by right clicking, and all sorts. Anyway. So I start keyframe and I end keyframe. So where do we want to end this? Well, I want to end it here, somewhere here, and rotate it say rotate it 45. This nice animation over here. And we've also got the alpha. So this alpha, we want to transition 0. There we go. It fades out. Now you can change that alpha duration, or you can move that keyframe so it fades out as it gets closer to the screen. There you go. I'd say he. Cool. We'll adjust these blocks positions in a second. So now let's adjust the keyframes for the surface. So the surface ones, these are the surface ones, and what I can do is select these, and we say, well, I want to bring this in here, and at the start, so I bring these two, the planet, so the planet is here, this is where it starts, so this is where I'm going to block this one. I'm going to say, okay, this one is here. Go. Oh, sorry, I got the wrong way around. So surface is here, and then the planet blocks. So that's the last key for the planet. There we go. Cool. So the surface, the alpha, that keyframe I want it set to 0. Let's fade it out, and then that kind of fades in quicker, maybe. Bam. Now on the planet. Now you want to change the start position, perhaps. So maybe you want it to be back, and then we pull it. Or we can do it the other way to see. Let's go the other way. That we've gone too far, but there you go. So we could do something like this. A good transition, bam. Maybe bring it in a bit more, say 8. There we go. So we've got this nice little animation, so we can interact here. You press play, bam, and then you can interact in here. Cool. Looking nice, right? So let's just set some keyframes, some states. So I'm going to set some soft states in case you want to go back and edit. It's just the next and previous we're going to do, so it's nothing complicated, and we don't need a hard state. And I'll just call this, transition, or I don't know, whatever you want. Zoom. You can call that animation. No, you can name that animation whatever you want. So you got next and previous, and what we're going to do is expose this to the UI that's going to be sitting above all of this, that will be controlling it. So I'm going to expose this out of this layer. So now if you click on there, now the next and previous, and you can see it's called zoom, next, previous. So any buttons in another layer, we can expose that click and link it in, link them out, if you want to go in as well and tweak some of those animations, or say add oscillators, whatever you want. I like to add oscillators. You can also even just change that speeds. What happened if you did it 200? You could see it's a bit more quicker. And go add an oscillator. So oscillators on the maths effects, it will be under the logic tab in the toolbox. Get oscillator, drop it in between, if it lets me. There we go. And you can do, say, the Z rotation and Z position. Do the same on the surface. Just keep it consistent. I'm going to change the damping to something like 12. Now we'll go next. You get a nice little bounce, you know. So really up to you. You could probably even use a linear node. Again, linear nodes are math effects. Same place you'll find an oscillator. And you can go here, toolbox, logic. You'll find these on the math effects, and you've got all of these to play around with, you know. And some of them are really cool. You've got ease morph. You got dampers. You can do the, you know, decay, whatever you want. Try them, see what they do. You know. So now I'll just put a linear on the alpha. There you go. And then now I have control over the alpha. If I want to say, okay, well, I want this a bit quicker, 0.5. Yeah. Or maybe I don't want one on the space one, or I can see how it looks without it by just changing the inactive. There you go. Perhaps I'll do that, and then it's okay, I don't need it on that space one, so I can just delete that. There you go. So you can keep on adding. I'm not going to go too much into that. But yeah. And then you can see you can start to get messy, so you might want to organize your tree and your nodes, you know, try to keep it a bit clean and organized. Right now it's not too messy, but yeah, you can also put them in groups. So for example, these three, I could select them and say Control Shift F, that's a family, like that, and so on. You know, Control Shift F, Control Shift F. So you know, so they're not. If they also, for example, accidentally clash, then they just push each other at the boxes out of their way, rather than, you know, having 5 or 6 nodes going all over the place. Yeah. But there you go. Anyway, let's get back to it. I apologize for it being so long. I've tried to keep this under an hour. So another new layer, standard 3D. We're gonna name this one our UI. Okay. So let's go into this layer, and we're gonna create a button. So an axis, a rounded rectangle. So notice now I'm speeding up by using my spacebar and searching for what I want. Over time, you know, you'll memorize this, and you'll just like, you know, you'll be like whizzing through it. But yeah, rounded rectangles on the geometry tab. Color, solid color. Okay, let's create a button. Okay, make it nice and big. Change some of these properties, so the round size. Let's make a nice rounded button. On the color material, we're going to go texture. We're going to say base, and then under the little loader tab, the little arrow tag, you go to gradient. Okay, so now we have a gradient. We're going to edit that gradient. So now you can choose a color of your choice. Let's go for nice orangey Mars, orangey red Mars, you know, Martian look. Whatever you want. That seems too dark, but there you go. Anyway, it doesn't matter too much. But you can see, if you spend time, you can make your buttons look nice, and you know, you can go in here. Okay, I want another color, whatever. You know, you could spend the time doing that, or doing the Photoshop, or whatever you want in there. But yeah, definitely take the time to create graphics and make it look nice how you want it. Right, so we've got this kind of basic button, and say we want to make some text. Just get an axis, text 2D, block text, color, solid color. I'm going to parent this underneath this axis. So now you see it's parented to this. So now this controls that position there. It's parented underneath. I want this to be center of the button. Easy way to do that. Center your text. Center align text, and center line alignment to center. There you go. Edit that text so you know. Visit now. Whatever it can be whatever you want, and you can load in some nice font. We've already covered that at the start when we was creating that space screen, so I'm not going to go too much into that. So we've got kind of a button here, so let's make a little animation. Really easy keyframe animation. Make a really simple one. Just call it button on BTN 1. We're only making one button, and we'll duplicate this so we can reuse the button as well. You'll see in a second, and then and we'll reuse some of these assets, so you don't have to keep on repeating your work. So we're going to animate the scale. I'm going to set a key, go to like 1 second, and set a key. Okay, and then I'll set a key in the middle. You can change that scale. So say this one press, and then there's just this is how it reacts when you press it. Okay, so I'm going to set 2 states. So you can set 2 states. Just going to press hard states. Right. So there you go. Got 2 states. S1 to S2. So if you click here on your logic view, you got S1 to S2. And what you want to do is replace the little orange arrow, so this previous arrow, with a next. So drag that next on there. Now when you click on the next, it will just loop back and forth. So it's just going back and forth. It's like next, yeah, which is what we want really. Cool. And you can name this like button 1, whatever you want. Now we can merge this to a container. So this is now button 1. You might want to actually reset that Y position, so so when you go into the other scene, it won't be a problem later. Anyway, so we've got that Y, and then we got axis here, so we can bring this forward and Z, scale it, whatever you want later. Okay, right now it's not interactive, so you can't click on it. So there's a touch button, bam. Place it in front of the node or in front of the object. Up to you how you want your hierarchy. It's nice to have it like kind of clean like this. So now we want to link the two. So select the button and the animation. Take the next, and then depending on what you're using, I'm using the mouse, so I'm going to say single tap. Now every time I click on that, it's always gonna work. Click. Now, and when I click it, I'm getting, so from my events, so this single tap. So I'm going to expose single tap out of my layer as well, out of the UI, because I want to link it to my animation, which is this, the next and the previous. So when we say on this UI, for example, a position where I want this, you can position it, scale it, because it's got its own 3D space, which is nice. You can do what you want as well, and it won't affect this and this one. They won't affect each other, which is nice. So you have your UI element buttons on top of, and then behind you got more interactive nodes. It's really nice, really nice. Anyway. So you can see why I built it in a specific way, but yeah, so I can scale this and then get this to look how I want, Anyway, this is visit now, or whatever you want, Did I even spell that right? I don't know. I don't even know if I spelled visit right. But anyway, so I've got button 1, and before I do click on button 1, I want to duplicate this button, this UI, so I have button 2. Okay, button 2, and I'm going to just position this, maybe say the top corner here, something, and change the text on this to say return, or oh no, return to orbit, or whatever you want, you know, or it could be just orbit or space, probably space, go back to space, so you know that's going back to space, whatever you want. Okay, let's probably make it different color, but maybe you can just leave it for now. But yeah, you can spend time designing that. So now we've got a space button, and what I'm going to do on the button 2 is expose that single tap as well, and expose the single tap of this button 1. What you can do is you can rename these if you wanted. So you could say, if you want to give it actual proper name that you know what it is, so we visit now, so this button or whatever you want, rather than it being just single tap. Now I know that's rather than it being called button 2 single tap, you can actually name that and say, you know, space button, whatever you want, you know, to make your life easier. Yeah. So we have these two exposed on the layer, so you can see now in your outputs, when you click them, your outputs here are changing. Okay, so we could do shift select our 2 layers, the Mars and the UI, and take the next and link it to visit now, and the previous would be that space button. So now we'll click the space button, and now we're controlling this animation on another layer using our UI layer. It's kind of cool. All right, and then you've got the interactivity, which is nice, right? Yeah. So visit now, bam, spin the model around. Yeah. Now say now you don't want these buttons to, you know, this button here, this UI animation, I don't know, I want this to disappear and this to disappear when it's on this menu. So you know, you'd have to expose specific things out, so you need to add the animation into here properly, depending on how you build it. So let's add an alpha, so we can just get an alpha value and animate that alpha. Expose this alpha as, say, visit now alpha, and I'll get another alpha. You can find alpha under toolbox under the color node alpha. It's just a material basically. Anyway, go to alpha, and then alpha, animate that alpha, and this one would be cool. Expose that alpha value, space alpha. Now I know what that is. So now if I click on here, I have those 2 values. Now those values won't change because they're not keyframed, so we need to keyframe them. So we added them to the animation, but we didn't change the value, we didn't keyframe it. So it's pretty easy. So say you could say, well, this is 0. Wait. Oh, my bad. I didn't name the actual, so it might be worth naming these so you know what they are. So, you know, I'll just call that visit. Name the nodes, then you know which one is which on the actual timeline. There you go. There you go. So the visit will be here, be 100. So, and say at this point here, I want it to already be zeroed out. Maybe a bit quicker, so it fades out quicker. There you go. And then this one starts here, and then it appears here. This one is set to 0, Oh, wait, there we go. So right now you can't, the keyframes are there, and if we go to the, if we click on the output here, so if I switch between and what we watch as alpha values, you'll see it's animating the values. So you can see it's here, and then go back, that one's changed, and you know the other one's on. And then all you have to do is just link what you've exposed. So from the Mars and from the UI. So the UI, we haven't added the alpha, or we don't have an alpha on these buttons. So we can just drop an alpha in front of those. And call that visit. And this one space. There we go. Just try to make this bigger so you can see it better. So you got those two, and we want to expose the alpha. And again, you can name these. And anyway, so now we've got the UI, these alpha, so space and visit. So visit will go to there, and we will say material, and then rename that the visit, so visit alpha, and then the space will be this space alpha. And you see, space bars disappeared because we keep filling it off. And there it is. So you can have your UI, you can have your interactive environment, and you know, you can click space, and if you want, you can go a bit further and add more detail in there and all sorts. Cool. I was gonna do a bonus, add a slider in here, but I think this video has gone quite on for a long time. But I will do maybe a part 2, and we can maybe add to this. So anyway, this is where we end it. We'll call it end to the video. I hope you liked it. We'll come back to this and we'll add maybe some sliders to control the lighting. You know, so you can change that. But feel free, you know, do it yourself. You know, try add the sliders in there. Try adding some other stuff. If you're gonna follow along with the video I made, hopefully it's useful. Be nice to see what you do. Maybe post some links to your work in the description below. You know, in the comments. Share your links of work or something. Or even go to the Ventuz Discord, and you know where it says share your work. Why don't you share your work there? Share what you've done with people. Let the people know what you're doing. You know. I didn't really focus too much on, you know, making the graphics look pretty, but hopefully you just understand the, you know, the logic side, some basic logic anyway, and basic buttons and basic interaction to help you get started. That's enough of me waffling on. I'm going to say goodbye now. If you can hit that subscribe and like and share. Thank you again. Bye bye.